sound on? Yeah, just she's my sister. I can mess with her. Okay, good. Welcome to the final night of Thyroid Month. Okay, I know. You know, do you ever tell your friends, no, it's Thyroid Month. This is the final night. I can hardly wait. They don't have the same enthusiasm, do they? Okay. Okay, well, we're going to do a rough overview of the thyroid function, but tonight we're talking about its relation to disease. And what have I said about every thyroid talk so far? It's not about the thyroid. It's not. Okay, it's just part of the glands of the system. First off, when we look at this, so we're talking about thyroid and disease. Do we have a really healthy population or a sick population? Sick. We're incredibly sick. I'm going to be on a radio show later on tonight, okay, for this group that does a lot of videos on psychiatry. And I was doing some stats for ADD, ADHD, okay, attention deficit disorder. I found out 4 million kids a year are getting diagnosed with behavioral disorders. Now, what's the number one treatment in this country for behavioral disorders? Yeah, drugs. Okay, drugs. Ritalin is a good stimulant. So that means 4 million kids every year are going to be put or lined up on pharmaceutical products. Now, I don't know about you, but that's our population. So does that mean our population's getting healthier or sicker? Sicker. So then, okay, because this is kind of like ties it in. I'm reading this article from 1999 that was just brilliant out of the Journal of the American Medical Association. So imagine if you were part of the medical world, and this article said we're leaving, and this is a quote from it. It's a transition. It's about mortality rates that are changing in the 20th century. Okay, originally we started from the age of pestilence and famine, and now people are dying from degenerative and man-made diseases. No, you're supposed to say, wow, my gosh, that's scary. We're actually killing ourselves. We're responsible for this type of disease. So when we start looking at this, I mean, some people are bold. I've got one colleague that on his entrance form, he actually, when you just go to see him, you have to write down on the bottom of the form, he says that prescription drugs are the leading cause of death in America. Write down the ones you're taking. I'm not that bold. Okay, so we're going to do a quick overview. First off, and this is just a really quick overview. The thyroid produces a number of things, produces two main things, T3 and T4. T3 has 3 molecules of iodine. T4 has how many? 4. I know, it makes it too simple. Okay. Now, most of these molecules that it's made, the T4 is bound to this carrying protein called a thyroid binding globulin, okay, which means that the thyroid produces it, and the globulin, the protein, carries it to the cell or carries it to the liver, the organ system. Now, the thing that tells the thyroid to work is the pituitary. Now, the pituitary is up in the brain, and it spits out a little hormone called thyroid-stimulating hormone, and that tells the thyroid to produce T3 and T4, and then that gets on this protein and is carried to the cell. Now, I'm sorry, what's the diseases, man-made diseases we're fighting now? Okay, well, this is crazy world, because what they do in the lab tests is they test to see if the pituitary is working right. So if TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, is high and the thyroid function is low, they mean that the pituitary is screaming at the thyroid to work, and the thyroid's not working. So they think it's nutritional deficiencies, or they diagnose you with hypothyroid. If T3 and T4 are up and the TSH is down, that means the brain is saying, we've got enough thyroid, don't make any more, but the thyroid's not listening, just keeps producing it. They think you're diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, and then they can, radiate it or cut it out. Okay. I know it sounds barbaric, okay, but this is the dark ages, 2013. So they're looking at those too. What they're forgetting, though, is that cortisol, a stress hormone, actually binds or decreases TSH. So the real doctor of the future is going to look at these blood tests not like, oh my gosh, this is high, this is low, what's that book say I'm supposed to do? You start to approach people with respect, and then you start to say, wow, okay, estrogen can bind to that thyroid binding globulin. If estrogen's high, that means that we're not going to get it in the bloodstream. Okay, so excess estrogens could be the cause of a low-functioning thyroid on a blood test. Or cortisol decreases the secretions, or TSH, coming from the pituitary. So it could be a stressful environment, excess estrogens. So the real doctor is going to actually look at these tests, not as a stupid little guidebook to start either cutting out or radiating or, doing something to the body, but looking at it as an intelligent response. Hypothyroid, hyperthyroid is an intelligent response of the body. A cancerous tumor is an intelligent response of the body. Okay, so this is it's a tough concept. So when we look at this, physical, chemical, or emotional stress, your body responds the exact same way to all three. It doesn't matter if you're hit by a car, if you're frustrated with a medical professional that's trying to shoot your kid with a vaccine. God bless you, sir. That would piss me off. Okay, or if you're chemically assaulted by toxic food. Okay, so your body responds the same way. Your body's going to respond like you're being chased by a tiger. Elevated heart rate, elevated blood pressure, decreased blood supply to the gut. Stress hormones are all going to be elevated. Oh wait, what happens to the thyroid stimulating hormone if stress hormones are up? It goes down. So we start looking at this, wow, so all of this could be related to stress. So if somebody is under stress long term, what are they going to be misdiagnosed with? High blood pressure, high cholesterol, low functioning thyroid, excess estrogens, weakened immune system. Okay, chronic digestion complaints. Can you see how all of this ties in? Now also when we look at this, so we're looking, now we've known this since 1936. This doc is just brilliant. Hunselli. Now, he developed a general adaptation syndrome. Now, this is brilliant. If the medical world embraced this, okay, and it back, about 80 years ago, if we embraced this, we would have a heck of a lot healthier population. So this way, if you realize that he felt that stress had three main responses. Alarm stress, okay, and that's being chased by a tiger, and this is normal, common to keep you alive in short term. It produces stress hormones, gets a lot of energy into the bloodstream so that you can survive in short term. Now, what's tough is, under this alarm stage, if that stress response remains high, all the repair functions are going to be decreased. So now, remember, go back to the crazy world where doctors are only going to check for the TSH and the T3 and T4, okay? What tells the pituitary to secrete the TSH? Any neurologists in the room? Don't raise your hand. The hypothalamus. Now this is cool. It's another part of the brain, but this part of the brain has got sensors that lead into the body. It actually has sensors that check for T3 or T4. So if T4 is high, it's going to kind of mellow out. It's going to relax. Now here's one of the tough parts. Have you ever heard of a thyroid hormone? It's called thyroxine. Yeah, doctors pass it out like candy. And they say it's a thyroid hormone. It's not. It's actually just T4. So now here's the tough part. If you're given a thyroid supplement, the hypothalamus that's supposed to tell the pituitary that tells the thyroid to work, if you're taking the thyroid, it thinks that your thyroid's working okay, so it's not going to tell the pituitary. I know, I just saw the light bulb go on. It's like, no! How can they do it? And then when you look at it, remember, T3 has got 3 molecules of iodine, T4 has got 4. Well, T3 is the real active version. This is the one that does the work. Okay, T4 just kind of hangs out. So you got to have that conversion from T4 to T3 to have a normal metabolic process. And so Hunselli goes in and says, under that first stress response, obviously the hypothalamus is affected. In fact, they call it the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. Okay, and they call this so they know you're not going to have a pituitary problem unless you have something going on with the hypothalamus. You're not going to have a problem with those two unless there's a problem with the adrenals. And if you do, high blood pressure, damage to the blood vessels, increased stroke, ulcers, and when you look at this, high blood sugar. So how many people diagnosed with type 2 diabetes does the doctor say, wow, I believe that you're in a stressful state, and this is causing cortisol to be secreted, which is decreasing blood supply to the gut, and shifting you from a healthy metabolic response from the thyroid to a cortisol-mediated metabolism that's causing an elevation of blood sugar. No, I'm sorry, that would be really smart. No, we're talking cookie cutter medicine. Wow, blood sugar's high, take this. Okay, now that's kind of silly because type 2 diabetes, which is 95% of all diabetics, if you take that drug, it lowers the insulin, or lowers the glucose. It does nothing to lower the insulin. Guess what does damage? What kills the brain? What kills the kidneys? It's the insulin. And the drugs they use to treat it make you think your blood pressure's okay, or the blood sugar's okay, but it's not. It actually damages it. So now let's say in Hansel, remember 1936 we knew this. We knew that high blood sugar, blood pressure, we knew that strokes, we knew that all of this stuff was related to stress. So if it's related to stress and you give a drug, does that help with the stress? No. It's like really stupid. Okay, so if you still have the stress, this is the next stage, the resistance stage. Now, what's the way the body is if you look at an antelope that's being chased, because I was watching on the Animal Planet, the caribou, largest migration, this little baby caribou takes off and is being chased by a wolf. Now, if the caribou doesn't stumble, he lives because he can wear out the wolf. If the caribou stumble, he becomes the wolf's dinner. Okay, I think wolves are cool, but I was really rooting for the caribou. Okay, I don't know why he wasn't even that cute. Okay, but you see this, and sure enough, what was going on with that little caribou? Was his heart rate elevated? Cortisol elevated? Absolutely. Because he need afterburners on. Absolutely, he needed that excess energy. So did he want to have a lot of repair? No. So blood supply to his gut was shut down. It was only to keep him alive short term, and sure enough, he did make it. Okay, but now when he's away from this, what happens to the stress responders in that normal physiology? They go down, exactly. So he's out there now, he's eating, his heart rate calms down, everything else. This is the resistance stage. Human beings, in this right here, your body tries to go back to homeostasis, which just means the body's trying to regulate itself and be like that caribou is finally getting a chance to eat. If the stress levels remain high, your body gets depleted. Because remember, stress response originally is to try and get energy into the blood, energy into the body. Okay, and if you keep depleting your stores of energy, you end up doing damage to everything. And then you get to the exhausted stage. This is when your body no longer has reserves. This is when you're just running off cortisol. Because remember, the thyroid regulates metabolic functions. The thyroid has healthy metabolic functions. In fact, it regulates how cells reproduce themselves and how most of the metabolic processes go on in the body. And the byproduct of a thyroid metabolic state is carbon dioxide and water. Watch this. Good, I just got rid of some acid. I'm in a healthy thyroid-mediated metabolism. My carbon dioxide just left. Okay, now, if you're in a cortisol-mediated metabolism or metabolic responses, its side effect or byproduct is lactic acid. Okay, literally acid where it breaks down the tissue. But that's okay because it's fast energy you can get going. Okay, does that make sense? So if you're in a cortisol-mediated metabolic response for a long period of time, your body breaks down. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay, and sure enough, in 1936, we knew that under chronic stress, high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, okay, we knew that tissue cells, organs, Alzheimer's, dementia. Okay, so you start looking at this and you think, my gosh, this is what most hospitals are filling up with. Okay, so if these people are in heart disease, if they have clogged arteries, if they have depression or anxiety, if we give them a chemical while they're in stress, does that make them healthier or sicker? According to the Journal of the American Medical Association, what kind of diseases are we suffering from today? Man-made. Isn't that amazing? So now this little bit of knowledge, you could save your life. Isn't that cool? It makes sense to me. Okay, now, when you're behind somebody in the store and you see big bruises everywhere, okay, they're either taking aspirin therapy, which is insane, or they're taking blood thinners, which can kill you, okay, or they're in a cortisol-mediated metabolism. Because remember, thyroid, you burn, the byproduct of a thyroid-mediated metabolic response is carbon dioxide and water. What's the byproduct of a cortisol-mediated metabolic response? Acid. So you start seeing big bruises everywhere. Isn't that something? So you could be in the supermarket behind somebody and say, wow, you got some stress. And they'll say, no, my blood pressure and cholesterol levels are fine. It's being held down really good with the medications. And I'm okay. I'm okay too. I do have this antacid that I'm taking. The little purple pill is for 24 hours worth of relief. I know. We're talking just in the very near future. This type of medical care will be declared obsolete. Okay, and then the real doctors, the chiropractors will take over. Okay, but when you see this, okay, you know that it's cortisol-mediated metabolic responses. Now, we can stop this. There's an antidote. When you see sick people, because what happens if you have healthy thyroid? You have healthy skin, healthy hair, healthy nails, healthy immune system responses. If you have a low-functioning thyroid, which means it's cortisol-mediated, hair falls out, skin looks bad. You can see people like this. The antidote is healthy nutrition. First, you got to take out the stress. Second, niacin, vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, minerals. Why? Because remember, what does the stress response originally do? What's its purpose? What's its purpose to get that caribou away from that wolf? Or to get that human being away to dealing with the medical doctor that you want to shoot because he's trying to shoot your kid with a vaccine? God bless you, man. I'm with you. Okay. It's to put energy in the blood. But the energy in the blood creates the acid. The acid breaks down tissue faster. Then you lose the hair, you lose the skin, you lose the organ system function, you get high blood pressure and everything else. Okay, does that make sense? So the antidote is first to eliminate the stress, but you're putting so much energy in the blood, you're depleting your stores of minerals, your stores of nutrients. So the way I put it up here, it's the antidote to stress, but it's really replacing what you're burning. Okay, makes more sense? So the thyroid function is not really about the thyroid. It's the canary in the mine shaft. When you start noticing that you have low energy in the afternoon, okay, you start noticing skin changes or hair changes, know that it's a problem of cortisol-mediated metabolism or a problem with the thyroid. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, good. Now, when we look at this, some of the other things that are going to negatively affect not just stress levels, but also thyroid. Russell Blaylock, brilliant neurosurgeon, wrote The Taste That Kills, okay, excitotoxins. And this is, again, it's involved in ADD, ADHD, dementia, bipolar disorders, major neurologic damage. And this right here is a list, and I put it in your handout, of 40 different ways that you can say MSG, okay, which is a potent neurotoxin. So if you're taking a package of I don't know, everybody knows that Pop-Tarts are bad, but truly, is the bacon-covered donut at the fair bad? I know, that's an obvious one. They even had bacon soda at the fair. I know, it's amazing, okay? And then this right here, if you're eating a package and it has this in here, this is a neurotoxin. It's going to negatively affect your systems. So it's just bad. I mean, this gal here, it's a perfect example. Before is on the left. That's her standing up straight. Now, 50-year-old gal, she's 35 pounds overweight, taking multiple prescriptions, okay? I mean, you're talking inhalers, blood pressure, medications, cholesterol, net drugs. Now, we know that cortisol is response to stress, right? How does the body make cortisol? In the adrenal glands, it does. It makes the cortisol in the adrenal glands. What does it use for the raw material? Say cholesterol. Cholesterol. Oh my gosh, how'd you know? I didn't know. I got a whole group of biochemists here. You're right. So now when we get somebody who has elevations in cholesterol, you don't say, wow, here's a drug to take it. You say, wow, your body is producing more cortisol, or it's maybe producing more progesterone, okay, which will protect you from disease. It means that there's some kind of increase in metabolic responses that your body's experiencing. You don't just take a drug to lower it. Okay, does that make more sense? And sure enough, I mean, we got her off all these drugs. This is one of the gals in the boxes back there who's taken 13 different prescriptions. She's drug-free now. So then when we see this type of thing, we can also say excess estrogens. So when you know, where is estrogen produced? It's produced in the ovaries, adrenals, and fat cells. Fat can actually be a hormone-producing organ. So if you're in a calorie-rich, nutrition-poor environment, this is what you get. But also, we're exposed to hormones in meats, plastic containers. I mean, we look at birth control. But birth control pill is literally estrogen. So it's not benign. I get girls in here as young as 13, 14 on birth control pills. Do you know why? Because they're having an irregular menstrual cycle. And I'm going, wait a second. You got a kid that's just forming. 13, 14 years old. They're not fully formed. And you're giving them a synthetic hormone that's going to lower the thyroid, that's going to increase the stress response, which is going to increase cortisol, which is going to weaken their immune system because you want them to have a regular menstrual cycle? I mean, that's you know, Fred Barge, he was a brilliant chiropractor. He'd just say, enough said. High fructose corn syrup. This is the #1 source of calories in America. It's genetically modified now, so we really, if you're eating this stuff, you're in the only human experiment ever. They've never experimented on humans. So again, when we talk about skin problems, hair loss, how many kids, teenagers have acne? Okay, lots. We had this one kid, and I mean, it's awkward to be a teenager. I know. I'd still have the mental capacity of one. Okay, but I mean, when you were a teenager, were you really confident and outgoing, or were you a little shy?
All of the above.
Here's this kid, 16 years old, had alopecia. Now, I don't mean alopecia just means hair loss. I mean it looked like he got caught in a dryer. He had big square clumps of hair gone. And so he comes in, a wrestler, great shape, okay, wearing those little beanies. And you know how shaved head is kind of like the you know, style nowadays? You couldn't even shave it because there were big square holes. And they've been to every endocrinologist, they've been to every, you know, I think like 10 different doctors. Okay, with your knowledge base right now, was he fully vaccinated? Yes, okay, good. So there are neurotoxins in there. We know MSG, that's going to negatively affect the hormone system, okay? Did he have a healthy diet, or was he eating high fructose corn syrup? Good. We know that's going to elevate and change his hormone levels. Okay. Was he eating any foods that may have negatively affected his hormone, that may be high in estrogens, like burgers? Okay. Toxic animal products. Okay. So you start looking at this, and the endocrinologist doesn't know. They don't know that you can't eat animal products, you know, that it's toxic to the system. They just said, oh, here's some hormones we're going to give you. So high fructose corn syrup raises estrogen. Estrogen levels actually lower thyroid function. You lower thyroid function, you increase cortisol. You increase cortisol, what do you have? I know. Are you starting to see the pattern? Okay, good. Progesterone. That's my heroine. Okay. They used to think that progesterone was a progestational hormone. We now know that progesterone actually protects you from the negative effects of estrogen, but it also protects you from cancer. It protects you from a lot of different things. Guys need progesterone. Now, the adrenals make it, okay, and guess what it uses to make progesterone? Cholesterol. Oh my goodness. So now here, let's say you go to the real doctor, okay, you go to the chiropractor, and he says, wow, you have high levels of cholesterol. You know what he's going to say? He's going to say, wow, maybe your body's trying to fight cancer. Maybe it's increasing it to produce more progesterone to decrease any exposure that you have to estrogens. Make sense? Yes or yes? I know. Instead of saying, oh no, here's a drug. What's the leading cause of disease? Man-made. Okay, good. Now, polyunsaturated fatty acids. This is a crazy oil. Okay, it's like seed oils, like soy oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil. You can't get oil out of a corn. Okay, you know that? In order to get oil out of a corn, you got to mix it with acid. It's got to be a massive chemical process. So it produces something toxic to your system. This glues blood vessels together. If you glue blood vessels together, it also negatively affects how the thyroid function, but it also damages the arteries. Now, if you have a diet high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, and you have thick blood, what do you think the pump has to do? Work harder, because you got to figure the blood vessels are supposed to be separate, but then they start clumping together. If they clump together, they don't have the same surface area, so they can't carry the same amount of oxygen, right? If they can't carry the same amount of oxygen, do you think that blood has to flow faster in order to keep the same nutrients? Yes or yes? Okay, so now what's the person going to be diagnosed with if they have to increase the pressure and increase the blood flow to get the same amount of nutrients to the system? High blood pressure. Oh my gosh. So you go to the crazy doctor and he's going to say, here's a drug to lower your blood pressure. You go to the real doctor, he's going to say, wow, let's check your diet. Your body's responding with an elevation in blood pressure in order to keep the same nutrients flowing to the tissue. Makes more sense? Right, doctors of the future? Yeah. Okay. Omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. If man makes it, don't eat it. Disease, normal food is 1 to 1, 1 to omega-6 to 1 omega-3. Disease starts at 8 to 1. American diet is around 20 to 1. But you start looking at packages. Corn oil is like 60, 70 to 1, 60 to 1. Safflower, I mean, it's not a healthy product. You may say, wow, but it's from canola. Yeah, no. We don't eat rapeseed. Okay, this stuff, you can't have genetically modified foods because that's going to, remember, physical, chemical, emotional stress. Your body responds the same way. Genetically modified foods is a chemical stressor. Chicken nuggets are 56% genetically modified corn. Okay, I mean, you can't eat the chicken anyway because nowadays they've doubled the radiation so it has benzene in there. Then they dip it in ammonia. Then they freeze it and package it. Then they mix it with a neurotoxin. I know. Yum. No. I mean, you can't even have s'mores anymore. Okay, unless you make the own graham crackers because, again, it's got genetically modified stuff. But then again, how many people are eating like this? How many teenagers are eating like this? Having skin problems, having depression and anxiety, having problems in school. Okay, can you see this? So they're not behavioral. 4 million kids a year with behavioral problems, they're being slowly poisoned. So we can't do that. And then we talk about, again, low functioning thyroid. What does low thyroid do? It destroys hair, skin, and metabolic processes, right? And now fluoride, if it's fluoridated water, it also decreases thyroid function. You may say, hey, look, I filter my water. Don't use fluoridated toothpaste. I'm okay. Unless you eat Amstel Light beer or Minute Maid orange juice, or all of these things are made with fluoridated water. Now, up until the 70s, they would use fluoride to slow down thyroid function. That 16-year-old with the big patches of hair, guess what kind of toothpaste he used? Fluoride. He had a Brita water filter at home, which doesn't filter out the fluoride. And our community is actually fluoridating the water. I know. I mean, they're gonna look at these videos in 100 years and say, this guy could not have been a doctor. He must have been a stand-up comedian because he can't be possibly telling this stuff for real. People would not be that crazy. When we look at this, they used fluoride to slow down the thyroid. We're fluoridating the water. Okay, so we stopped that. Now, also the neurotoxins are causing leaky gut. So leaky gut, finally, the medical community is recognizing it. If you take neurotoxins, it blows holes in the intestinal tract. So in order to fix the thyroid, because there's certain things called Hashimoto's thyroid, they have to go on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet because the gluten, which is an undigested protein, can actually pierce the wall of the intestinal tract so you get this undigested protein floating in the bloodstream. Now that undigested protein looks a lot like the thyroid, but the body sees that undigested protein, so it builds antibodies towards it. And if it builds antibodies towards the gluten, those antibodies are also going to attack the thyroid. And that's going to destroy the thyroid, have the thyroid go really up and really down and really up and really down. And then they're going to see antibodies to it, and then they're going to diagnose you with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So how do you correct that? You heal the gut. You eliminate gluten and dairy. Okay, it's really, really simple. But all of this negatively affects the frontal lobe. This is why kids with leaky gut, kids with neurotoxins, you get these gluten and casein proteins, or the wheat and the dairy, that attach to the frontal lobe, and it literally starves the brain. So does that mean the ADD, ADH kids are also going to have low functioning thyroid? And it's all because of us. Now we need iodine. They used to put iodine in bread. And they used to do that because it would raise it. However, iodine's expensive and it doesn't have the same shelf life as bromine. Now, you remember the periodic table of elements? You know, they had like all, you know, well, iodine, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, they're all halides. Now, the thyroid uses iodine to make its molecules. Okay, it uses 3 for T3, 4 for T4. However, if it doesn't have healthy amounts of iodine, and you got all this abundant chlorine because we're chlorinating the water, or fluoride because we're fluoridating the water, or bromine because we're mixing it in the bread, it's going to start making Kmart thyroid. Okay, not healthy thyroid, because it doesn't have the iodine, so it's going to start using the bromine, the chlorine, and the fluoride. Okay, can you see that? So if you're eating commercial bread, you can't. If you see these kids with bad skin, bad hair, bad immune system, you know, their nose is running, all of this stuff, we know that's excess histamine response. Get them on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet, but we got to stop this. We got to start voting that, you know, we shouldn't fluoridate the water. Soy is toxic. Eliminate soy. It's bad. We talk about this a lot, but it's not designed for human beings unless it's fermented in a miso and tempeh. But just don't eat it. Plus, now in America, most of it's genetically modified, and that's not healthy. Now, it's interesting. Hans Selye, the guy that went through and talked about general adaptation syndrome, talked about how deadly it is, how most diseases are related to it. Over 80 years ago we knew this. Would our society be healthier now if we respected the body's responses? This was his plan to fix the general adaptation syndrome. Now what's interesting, they didn't have genetically modified foods, they didn't have multiple vaccines back then, they didn't have a lot of the stuff, the toxins that we're exposed to now, but his solution was adopting an attitude of gratitude. His other solution was acting towards others from altruistic rather than self-centered. His other one, retaining a capacity for wonder and delight and finding beauty in things in life. Those top three sound pretty cool, doesn't it? Wouldn't that be neat to have this as like an affirmation? Okay, remember, this is how to change your perception of the environmental stimulus. It's changing the brain within. This guy came up with this 80 years ago. Finding a purpose for one's life. Isn't that cool? I know. It makes me want to write this stuff down. Keeping a healthy sense of modesty about one's goals or achievements. I don't know about that one, but I like the other ones. When people say, what are you doing this weekend? I say, well, I want to take over a small foreign country. Like America. So yeah, thyroid hormones and all that. And, when you start looking at this is a patient who has scoliosis. They have a steel rod. That's them when they came in on the left. And this guy, again, multiple stressors. I can't take the steel rod out. But do you see a difference in his body posture? Yes or yes? Yeah. I know. Oh, no, you can't see. Okay. Here, I know. I'm going to disappear. No. No. So you just need, healthy diet, healthy food, healthy exercise, healthy nutrients. This is food. If you're not making it, don't eat it. Okay, I mean, it's pretty getting down to that point. Plant-based diet is the healthiest diet you're ever going to get. It really is, because your body knows how to digest it. This right here is criminal. Now, these are 3 different people. They all have subluxation patterns right through here, and that's the nerve supply to the heart. The 2 on the left both have pacemakers. The guy on the right, okay, I'm sorry, a pacemaker, maybe you're not familiar with this. It means the heart skips a beat. Now, I keep on saying that we should honor people, pay attention to their symptoms. If you have a nerve that's not functioning correctly, are you going to have effective, normal regulation of the heart? So you got a society that instead of saying, wow, let's check T1 through T4 to make sure that that nerve system, since it does control the heart, is clear, or do you have a system that's going to put a battery pack underneath the skin, a wire that goes through the superior vena cava, through the tricuspid valve, jams it into the floor of the right ventricle. It looks kind of like a spear too. And then the valve is going to close over this wire as long as the person lives, and this is going to override the natural electrical conductivity of the heart. Instead of finding the problem and correcting it. This guy here, he had cardiac arrhythmias. We adjusted him, and now he doesn't have them. I know. It's just paying attention and respecting the body. Now, on this handout, we've got a couple of things, some articles on polyunsaturated fatty acids, but the basic thing, because this whole month has been on thyroid. Has it been about thyroid? No. I want you to appreciate the interconnectivity of the body and how everything that we put in our body. The reason we used to pray over food is because we realized it was going to become us. And you don't want to become the bacon-covered donut at the fair. Really?
You really need to pray over that one.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure it was just made as a joke. I didn't see anybody eating it. But, so watch what you're putting in your body, respect it, and your body's going to heal. Okay, does that make sense? Good. Thank you very much. Good. Okay, now, next weekend.